My name is Robtel Neajai Pailey. I am an assistant professor in international, social, and public policy at the London School of Economics and Political Science. And that's a really fancy way of saying that I teach, I read, I research, I write, and I publish. So I investigate people, places, and processes and write about them. I think it's really important that the book focuses on young learners because it's at the stage where children begin to develop a critical consciousness about the world, not only about the world, but also their place in the world. So if we're able to have conversations with them at this stage, then hopefully they'll become global citizens and really responsible and accountable global citizens. The book has a lot of really exciting illustrations, and the one that I'm really super stoked about is a very striking illustration in the decolonization spread, which is a spread that I focused on. And it's a map of Africa in 1960, when movements for self-rule and self-determination were really at their peak in the continent. Well, I've always been really interested in how people in particular places fight for their independence, fight for their freedom, and then also their ability to really determine their own destinies. I think it's important to study how the world has shaped from those ancient kind of empires or, those worlds that existed before, because for me, it shows that the world is not European in its orientation. These ancient empires were people who looked like me, who were black and brown. And so by looking back into that past, by looking back into how people lived and thrived and interacted with one another beyond the European subcontinent, massive world wars or the world wars that we know about in history, I think a lot of those conflicts happen because of individual ambitions. I think a lot of the wars are based on economics and the ability to control resources, not only internally, but also externally. There have been so many historical milestones. They usually are a break from the past. So it's usually people doing things differently or fighting for things to be done differently. So you talked about the end of slavery. It took abolitionist movements of both sympathetic white people, but then also former slaves or people who, black people who were born free, fighting for the end of slavery for decades. The same goes to women's suffrage, not only in the United States, but women have had to fight for their ability to be free politically all across the globe. So when I think of historical milestones, I really think about those moments in which people stood up for their rights and demanded those rights. This is precisely why an Encyclopedia Britannica for young readers is so important, is because it gives them an opportunity to learn from that past. And hopefully in the next 30 years, they will be able to become the revolutionaries of their time. Hopefully, the younger generation, the younger readers who are looking at this Encyclopedia Britannica will do things differently.